Your paycheck shrank on Tuesday, and not in some abstract Wall Street jargon way. I'm talking about the actual dollars sitting in your account right now. The money you worked overtime for, the savings you've set aside for your kids' education, the nest egg you're building for retirement, it lost real value in the span of 1 hour, 60 minutes, the length of a single Netflix episode. That's how quickly billions evaporated. And when asked about it, the President of the United States responded with one word: great. Now, before you tune out thinking this is just politics, understand this. It's about your rent, your groceries, your gas, your future. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what unfolded that Tuesday in Iowa, see the data mainstream outlets buried, and learn what smart investors are doing while the rest of the world looks away. And yes, we'll tackle the question in your mind. Is the dollar truly dying, or is this just hype? I'll show you the proof. Don't take my word for it. Verify the data yourself. Welcome to the Facts Fair. Drop, save the dollar. In the comments if you're ready to see what's happening to your money. And subscribe, because the next 6 to 12 months will rival the shocks of 1973. That's not exaggeration. It's fact. Here's what happened. January 27, 2026, Iowa. During a press event, a reporter asked President Trump, "The dollar has fallen about 10% this year. Do you think it's fallen too much?" Pause here. 10% in a year is massive. If your home value dropped 10%, you'd panic. If your retirement account fell 10%, you'd be calling your advisor immediately. The US dollar, the backbone of the global economy, lost 10%. And the president's response? No, I think it's great. Look at the business we're doing. The dollar is doing great. Within an hour of those words, the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index logged its steepest single-day drop in nearly a year, plunging to 95.77, the lowest since February 2022. 4 years of gains erased in 60 minutes. One word, billions gone. Market strategist Mark Chandler summed it up. The market is happy to give it to them. Translation: the world was waiting to see if America would defend its currency. When the president signaled indifference, traders pushed it lower. Think of it like poker. You've got a decent hand, everyone's watching, and instead of bluffing, you show your cards and say you don't care if you win. What happens? Everyone takes your chips. That's what happened to the dollar. And this wasn't just a bad day, it was historic. In the first half of 2025, the dollar fell 10.8% against major currencies. The last time it dropped that fast in 6 months? 1973, half a century ago. Before smartphones, before the internet, before Amazon. Many viewers weren't even born the last time this happened. We are living through the sharpest dollar decline in 50 years. So why would a president welcome a weaker currency? Is it recklessness or strategy? Some economists argue it's deliberate. Stephen Moran, now chair of Trump's Council of Economic Advisors, once wrote that America's problems stem from an overvalued dollar. His reasoning: a strong dollar makes U.S. goods expensive abroad, hurting factories and workers. J.D. Vance echoed this in 2023, calling the strong dollar a subsidy for consumers but a tax on producers. The logic is simple: weaken the dollar, make American products cheaper overseas, boost exports, reopen factories, bring jobs back, rebuild the middle class. That's why Trump said, great. He sees it as proof the plan is working, and some economists agree. Short-term pain for long-term gain. But here's the other side, and this hits you directly. A weak dollar is a hidden tax on every American. Here's how. You walk into Walmart to buy a TV made in Asia. The store pays in dollars. When the dollar is weaker, they need more of them to buy the same TV. That cost gets passed to you. Prices rise, your money buys less. That's the hidden tax of a falling dollar. Does Walmart swallow that cost? Of course not. They push it straight to you. That's why the TV on the shelf suddenly costs more. That's the weak dollar tax, and it doesn't stop at electronics. Fill up your car, gas is tied to oil, and America imports oil. When the dollar loses strength, oil becomes more expensive in dollar terms, and gas prices climb. But here's the part most people overlook. It doesn't end at the pump. Every product in America moves by truck. Trucks run on fuel. When fuel costs rise, shipping costs rise, and when shipping costs rise, everything you buy, groceries, clothes, medicine, school supplies, even the chair you're sitting on, gets more expensive. That's the weak dollar tax. You pay it every single day without ever casting a vote for it. Now, here's where it gets personal. This hidden tax doesn't hit everyone equally. Wealthy households often own assets that thrive when the dollar weakens. Gold, foreign equities, overseas property. Their advisors saw this coming and positioned them months ago. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck, just trying to cover rent, buy food, and save a little, you're getting squeezed from every direction. Higher grocery bills, higher gas, higher prices on everything, and the savings you do manage to keep? They lose purchasing power daily as the dollar slides. You're not earning less, but you can buy less. It's a wealth transfer from the uninformed to the informed. Ask yourself, which side are you on? Let's break down the three forces driving this collapse. Force 1, the tariff earthquake. April 2nd, 2025, President Trump declared Liberation Day, slapping massive tariffs on imports from nearly every nation. The stated goal: protect American industry, make foreign goods pricier so consumers buy domestic. Supporters hailed it as bold, finally standing up to decades of exploitation. Critics called it economic suicide. Here's what actually happened. The stock market didn't just dip, it imploded. In 3 days, $5 trillion vanished from the S&P 500. That's more than Japan's entire GDP erased in 72 hours. More than Germany's economy gone in 3 days. But the real shock? The dollar didn't strengthen as textbooks predict. It weakened. Why? Because tariffs unleashed chaos. And global investors despise chaos more than low returns or high taxes. Uncertainty drives them away. Liberation Day created massive uncertainty. So capital fled America. Into Europe, Asia, gold, anywhere safer. Carl Shimoda, chief strategist at Corp, described the dollar as a falling chainsaw. His words, no one wants to catch it. And then came something almost unheard of. Stocks fell, bonds fell, and the dollar fell, all at once. Normally, when equities drop, investors run to bonds or the dollar for safety. But this time, everything American collapsed together. Professionals call it the Sell America trade, dumping U.S. assets across the board because confidence evaporated. Since 1970, this has only happened 13 times. The last time before 2025, 1981, a once-in-a-generation event, and most people didn't even notice. Force 2, the Federal Reserve battle. This is where things get dangerous. The Fed sets interest rates. High inflation, they raise rates. Weak economy, they cut them. For this system to function, the Fed must remain independent, making decisions based on data, not political pressure. Because history shows when politicians control central banks, currencies collapse. Just look at Turkey. Turkey shows us what happens when politics hijack monetary policy. Years of pressure on their central bank destroyed the lira, down 80%, life savings gone. Argentina? Same story. Political meddling led to inflation over 100%, families carrying bags of cash just to buy food. Venezuela? Government control of the money printer triggered one of the worst hyperinflations in history, a currency literally worth less than toilet paper. This is why central bank independence matters. Now look at America. President Trump has been vocal about wanting lower interest rates, arguing that high rates choke businesses and make homes unaffordable. Fed chair Jerome Powell resisted, insisting rates must stay elevated to tame inflation. Then came the flashpoint. January 9th, 2026, the Department of Justice issued subpoenas targeting Powell, citing a $2.5 billion building project. Powell's response was chilling. He said the investigation was punishment for refusing to cut rates simply because the president wanted it. Supporters of Trump claim Powell is sabotaging the economy for political reasons. Critics warn this is banana republic behavior, weaponizing the Justice Department to strong-arm the Fed. Whatever your view, the markets spoke loudest. The day after Powell's statement, gold exploded past $4,600 an ounce, an all-time record. Investors weren't waiting to see flames. They smelled smoke and ran for safety. Rule of economics. When confidence in a central bank collapses, the currency collapses with it. This is why your dollar died a little that Tuesday. Not one event, but a storm of forces hitting at once. And if you're still watching, you're ahead of most Americans who remain oblivious, because the next force is even bigger. Force 3, the debt time bomb. This isn't about one president, it's decades of mismanagement by both parties. Republicans, Democrats, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden all contributed, and now it's detonating. America's national debt, $36.22 trillion. That number is so massive it feels abstract. So picture this, spend $1 every second, nonstop, no sleep, no breaks. It would take you over 1 million years to spend $36 trillion. But the real danger isn't the debt itself, it's the interest. In 2020, interest payments were $514 billion. By early 2025, they doubled to $14 trillion. According to the St. Louis Fed, interest now consumes 34% of all tax revenue. 1/3 of every tax dollar goes to interest. Not schools, not roads, not defense, not healthcare. Just interest. By 2035, projections show $1.8 trillion annually, more than defense, education, and transportation combined. Meanwhile, America endured its longest government shutdown ever because Congress couldn't agree on basic funding. Chaos piled on chaos. And then came the shocker. May 16, 2025. Moody's downgraded America's credit rating. Historic. For 106 years, through wars, depressions, and crises, the U.S. held AAA status. Now, all three major agencies, S&P, Fitch, Moody's, have downgraded U.S. debt. For the first time in modern history, no one considers American debt perfectly safe. What does that mean? Higher borrowing costs, faster debt growth, bigger interest payments, less money for everything else. A downward spiral. And through it all, the president says, the dollar is doing great. But while the public is distracted by political drama, a massive wealth transfer is underway. Gold surged past $5,100 an ounce the same day Trump said, great. In January 2025, gold was $2,640. By January 2026, it doubled. A 64% gain, the biggest since 1979. Silver, even more dramatic. $116 an ounce in January 2026, up 150% in a single year. A $10,000 investment in silver at the start of 2025 became $25,000 by year's end. Why? Because when faith in paper money evaporates, people rush to assets governments can't print. Gold has been money for 5,000 years. Empires rise and fall, currencies collapse, but gold endures. And right now, everyone is buying. Goldman Sachs projects gold could hit $6,350 by the end of 2026 and $8,650 by 2027. The message is clear. While the dollar weakens, real money is exploding. And if you're not paying attention, you're on the wrong side of history. Goldman Sachs isn't throwing out wild numbers for fun. Their analysts are blunt. Investors are scared, and that fear isn't going away, which means the appetite for gold will stay strong. But here's the twist most people miss. It's not just retail investors piling in. Central banks are hoarding gold at levels we haven't seen in decades. China has been buying for over a year straight. Russia's reserves top 2,300 tons. India is aggressively adding to its stockpile. Even Brazil stepped back into the market for the first time since 2021. And here's the jaw dropper. According to IMF and Bloomberg data, the market value of gold held by foreign central banks has now surpassed their holdings of U.S. treasuries. Think about that. The governments who understand money and power better than anyone are quietly shifting from dollars to gold. That's not speculation. It's hard data. And if you want proof, here's your Google it moment. Search BRICS Gold-Backed Currency 2025. In October 2025, BRICS launched a pilot settlement currency, 40% backed by gold, 60% by their own currencies. With new members like Saudi Arabia, Iran, UAE, Egypt, and Ethiopia, they now represent half the world's population and a third of global GDP. Together, BRICS nations control about half of global gold production. Russia at 340 tons annually, China at 380, plus thousands more from partners. Their combined reserves exceed 6,000 tons. They're not just buying gold, they're producing and locking it away. Putin said it clearly. We are not refusing, not fighting the dollar, but if they don't let us work with it, what can we do? We have to look for other alternatives. And that's exactly what they're building. 90% of trade between BRICS members is now settled in local currencies, not dollars. Meanwhile, China's U.S. Treasury holdings collapsed from 40% of reserves in 2010 to less than 1% by 2025. They've been quietly dumping American debt for over a decade while nobody was watching. So, is the dollar dying? No. Not tomorrow, not next month, probably not next year. It still makes up about 60% of global reserves. The euro sits near 20%, the yuan around 3%, the dollar is still king. But the trend is undeniable. In 1970, it was over 80%. By 2024, down to 59%. The decline is slow, but accelerating. The dollar isn't dead, it's bleeding. And the people in charge are calling that wound great. Who wins in this chaos? The ones holding gold and silver, up 60% to 150% in a year. Hedge funds betting against the dollar. Multinationals with overseas profits that look bigger when converted back. Foreign governments like China, Russia, and India who prepared years in advance. Wealthy Americans with advisors guiding them into hedges and foreign assets. And who loses? Everyday savers who keep their wealth in dollars, unaware their purchasing power is evaporating. There are three kinds of people watching this right now. The Denier. You think this is exaggerated. The dollar always bounces back. Maybe you're right, but ask yourself, what number would make you pay attention? A 20% drop? 50%? The Panicker. You think it's over. America is finished. You want to bury gold in your backyard. Stop. Panic leads to bad decisions. Selling low, buying high, regretting for years. The Preparer. You see the trend and ask, what can I do? This is the smart position. You can't control Trump, Powell, Congress, or BRICS, but you can control how you position yourself. Diversify, hedge with metals, invest in assets that benefit from a weak dollar, reduce debt, build emergency savings. Doing nothing is also a choice, and in this environment, it might be the riskiest one. The people who prosper in crises aren't the ones who panic or ignore the signs. They're the ones who pay attention, understand, and act before the crowd. So let's close the loop. Your dollar died a little on Tuesday. Now you know why. Tariff chaos, Fed battles, the debt time bomb. You see why gold and silver are exploding. You see what BRICS is building. You see who wins and who loses. By summer, we'll know if the Fed caves. By the end of 2026, Goldman says gold could hit $6,350. By 2027, BRICS may have real traction. The next 12-18 months will be decisive. You have a choice. Forget this and hope someone else fixes it, or be one of the few who actually saw it coming. Drop "Save the Dollar" in the comments if this opened your eyes. Share it with someone who needs to know. Subscribe to The Hidden Economy, because when the next shift hits, you'll hear it here first. And don't trust me? Google everything. Verify it yourself, because in a world where leaders call a crashing currency great, you can't afford to let anyone else do your thinking. 50 years from now, historians will ask one question. Did people see what was happening, or did they look away? You've seen it. The only question left is, what do you do next?